Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today, I just wanted to compare all the controllers I have, just cuz, and we're gonna start from the oldest to the newest. So let's start with the oldest one I have, the NES. Now the NES controller is very basic. I mean, we got like 8 buttons, which that's more than I thought it had. I mean, because you got like the 4 with the D-pad, and then you got start and select, and then A and B, which, this isn't quite used, so, it's not exactly what it was meant to feel like, but all the buttons feel pretty solid. The D-pad's pretty good. I mean, my favorite buttons are the A and B buttons, but yeah, pretty basic design. It's just a rectangle. I don't get why people say that the corners cut into them. Like, it's really hard. I don't see that. I think it's a pretty alright controller. And it does the job. But they definitely improved that with the Super Nintendo controller, which is still raveled. You gotta unravel it. With these, they improved it with these rounded corners, which much better controller. Although, why did you slant this? Like, you should have slanted it the other way. That just feels goofy. Or maybe just make it like this, the same thickness, like with the NES controller. I mean, I guess it's the same thickness at the bottom, but you made it thicker? Probably because of the back bumper triggers. But that just feels really goofy, and I don't like that in my hand. I do not. It's just my preference, I don't know what. But having the X and B buttons so you can run and quickly jump is perfect. You can easily do that, and it's very intuitive. I mean, I guess you could do that and that, but who would want to? And they got those are indented, and these are not, and they're different colors too. All the buttons feel great. The D-pad is honestly even better. I think they slightly increased its size. Yeah, I think they made it better. And the bumper triggers, were these really necessary? I don't know any game that actually uses these bumper triggers. But yeah. Alright, the next controller I have, which I'll also have to unravel, is a super cool color, actually. I love that they put these. And it's basically like 2 different generations. There's only like one minor difference. But it is the PlayStation 2 controller. Now this is where controllers actually started to get kind of comfortable. And why I say it's like basically a 2 generations is because this is basically also a PlayStation 1 controller. The only difference is they added pressure-sensitive face buttons for X, circle, triangle, and square. That's it. And this is like the DualShock 1 and the DualShock 2 are really similar. I mean, all the buttons feel swell. And they actually did use these in all these buttons in games now. And it's pretty comfortable, I have to say. It's a pretty nice controller. Alright, and next controller is a absolute classic, which is the GameCube controller. And I get why it's a classic. It's even more comfortable, honestly, than the PS2 controller. And pressing those triggers, man. the click at the end is so sweet. It feels so nice. This is a very goofy controller. I mean, look at where these buttons are placed. Although, it's perfect for, like, I don't actually mind it. Because it's, like, perfectly placed. You got your A, and everything orbits A. Sweet. The D-pad is super small. I mean, I think it's even smaller than the original. Yeah, it's much smaller than the NES controller. But no games really actually used this the D-pad, at all. So, yeah, I don't know. And also, oh, that must be, oh yeah, I've opened one of these up before. I think that's for the rumble motor, the little hump. But I just always thought it was goofy that they have this, like, thing sticking out on either side. They fixed that with, like, the Wavebird. And I also thought that this side could be a little more curvaceous or whatever. It could have some more curve to it and be a little more out there. Because I feel like I would want to, like, hold it more like this instead of like this. But, it's a pretty comfortable controller nonetheless. Alright, let me see what the next one is. Alright, we got the next controller is the PlayStation 3 controller. It's the same thing as the PS2 controller, just as comfortable. It's just a refinement. I don't know if they have pressure. I don't think they have pressure sensitive buttons anymore. But, really, the biggest improvements, wireless and analog triggers. Now, these aren't the greatest analog triggers, but they're analog triggers. I used to think these were great because, well, this was actually my first console I ever got. It was a PS3. Great console to start out on. I recommend it. And, pretty comfortable controller. Not much else to say. Next up. Or wait. Yeah, no, next up. Yeah, we got the Nintendo Wii remote. Very comfortable. It's a freaking TV remote. And motion controls, super cool. D-pad, playing this like an NES game is just super weird. But, yeah. And if you add our little accessory here, we got nunchucks. That did not work. Which had a couple extra buttons and an analog trigger. This is super light. I mean, the weight really bothers me that it's just this light. Although I think this is a third-party one. So, that makes sense why it's super light. This is a third-party Wii remote, but I think the third-party Wii remotes are actually pretty good. At least the ones without the branding here. I have a few of them. Like, here. And that brings me to, the rubber grip. I actually think it improves the controller a little bit. I think it makes it actually a little bit more comfortable. Although, no, I don't think so. It's just okay. It doesn't really matter if it's on there or not, to be honest. But, yeah, it just protects you from flying and hitting the friggin' TV. But yeah, that's the Wii Remote classic controller. Next up is the PlayStation 4. Very comfortable controller. I have to say, it is my favorite controller I own. The D-pad, they have somehow greatly improved it from all the other ones. I think it's bigger. Let's pull up the PS3. Yeah, it is bigger. I mean, the D-pad on this is actually pretty good. But the D-pad on this is honestly just as good and might be slightly better. The buttons, phenomenal. The best buttons of any controllers are on PlayStation, in my opinion. These buttons are are literally like just as good as the ones here. They made the PlayStation button tiny and not as cool looking as the PS3, but it's fine. The thumbsticks are so nice, and the grooves make it so much easier than like the older controllers. I mean, why didn't they think of this before? It got a built-in headphone jack and that for charging. I don't use that though. Why did they use, is it micro USB instead of, I think this is mini USB. Why? Why isn't, I know this is 2013, but still. That's just, yeah. The touchpad, very unpopular opinion and hot take, but I feel like it's the greatest thing they've added to any controller. Not for video games, but for typing stuff in and just using it to select your keys makes things so much easier than manually typing in and going over and then clicking X, then going over here, click X again, go up, click X. Yeah, it makes it so much easier. And this is also the death of the start and select buttons. I mean, options is fine. Actually, I like the capture button for clips. That's pretty nice. What games even use the built-in speaker? Like, none. The bumpers are much better. Well, honestly, I wouldn't say they're really any better than the PS3 controller. They're fine. The triggers, though, are phenomenal. They're really good triggers. Compared to the PS3 controller. They are not the best triggers I've ever used. That will come later. But overall, this is my favorite. It is super comfortable. I already thought that this was pretty comfortable, but having that extra grip to grip onto and putting it into the palm is so nice. I can imagine, I don't have a PS5, but I can imagine the PS5 controller being my favorite controller ever. So yeah, that's the PS4 controller. Greatest controller ever. And I love the color, the blue light. That's super cool. Next up is, now let's, sorry for the glare, but there's a case on these. Not my controllers. I stole them for this video. But these are Joy-Cons. I'm sure you know what those are. They're Nintendo controllers. Apparently my Switch is on right now. They're pretty good. Pretty comfortable for the most part. They're not comfortable. They're good enough. Good enough. These rails really suck. They break all the time if you don't freaking press the button, which I've had. Which these are both of these are broken with the rails. They come off super easily. These buttons are extremely tiny. Why did they make them super tiny? I don't know. And then they had to get this grip to put on there to make them bigger and much easier to press. These face buttons are actually pretty tiny. They could be bigger. The joysticks are alright. I like the capture button. I really like taking my screenshots. The plus and minus buttons are basically start and select. Or not really, but they're actually more, they're pretty much start and select. The bumpers are pretty good. The triggers, why aren't they analog? You did analog for back in 1996 with the Nintendo 64, and then you decide to just go bump just a button. It's not analog. Why? And then they did the same thing with the Switch 2. Why? I love the analog triggers. And I play racing games. That would be really helpful. Nintendo. I don't have a Switch 2. But I can imagine. I know the buttons are bigger, which I'm pretty sure feel better. The Joy-Cons are bigger, and I know they feel better. But these are pretty alright controllers. They're not super amazing, but they're not bad. And that brings me to the Joy-Con grips. I customized these controllers on my own, and, customizing and putting a D-pad, I would do it. Although, I do get why they didn't put a D-pad on that, because of the, multiplayer thing. But I never used these for that. So, I mean, like, what? I've used it once, probably, in the past. Actually, I used it once in the past week, and that's probably, like, the one exception. But, yeah. I mean, the grip does, going back to this, it does make it somewhat more comfortable. But it's kind of like just one of those things where you just use it the first time you get the Switch, and then as soon as you get the Pro Controller, you never use it again. It's that kind of thing. I heard in the Switch 2 that they chopped this off so you could put it in there, and I tried it. It was alright. I didn't like it, or I hate it. It's basically the same thing as this. I don't like it or hate it. I'll use it if I have to, I suppose. But I much prefer the Pro Controller. And I very much prefer the Pro Controller. And that brings me to the Pro Controller. The Pro Controller. One of the greatest ever controllers in the freaking world. It is the most comfortable. The buttons are so good. The D-pad is pretty good. Bumpers, and even though these aren't analog, these are really good triggers. And I love the little secret, the thanks to all gamers in there. That's really nice. What can I say? It's like the most comfortable controller I've ever held. And I feel like it would be, if the PS5 controller, would probably be a mix between these two. Or no, or maybe somewhat. I feel like that's yeah, pretty much. It would be this, but more of this. If you get what I'm saying. Like, comfort-wise. But the Pro Controller, yes. The D-pad, honestly, I would have to say the PS4 controller's D-pad is better. I don't know how Sony nailed it. Or Nintendo, I don't know how you fricked up with the D-pad. It's alright. Honestly, I don't think it's any better than doing this custom D-pad. Actually, this custom D-pad might actually be better than the one on the Pro Controller. Nah, they're like the same. There's no difference. And we finally use USB-C. Perfect! I love USB-C. I wish my iPhone used it, but I have an iPhone 14 just before the USB-C transition. But my only problem, why the glossiness? Why? This just gets scratched up. That's my only gripe with it. Otherwise, the GOAT. Also, the only reason why I say this is the GOAT and not this is because this is so comfortable. The only thing they could improve on with this is getting rid of the glass, obviously, but which they did with the Switch 2 Pro controller, and adding analog triggers. I tried the Pro 2 controller. It's literally the same thing as this, just slightly improved. I mean, they got rid of the gloss. It looks cooler, and that's it. Where's my analog triggers, Nintendo? Alright, we're now down to my last controllers, which are two of the same, but also slightly different. And Xbox Series, and I'm gonna also put Xbox One in this because they're like the same freaking controller, just with an added capture button and also rumble motors in the triggers. These triggers are the freaking best triggers I've ever felt. They are so nice. The D-pad is actually really good. It's very clicky. I like that. These sticks are so good feeling. They have the perfect indentation. My only gripe is just how loud and annoying every button is, and doing this, just, that's my only gripe. It also feels the cheapest out of all the controllers. I mean, it even uses batteries, although I have a battery pack in there from Nyko for a charging stand. But yeah. And then I also have a blue one, and I put lizard skin on that, and oh my god, the lizard skin changes the way the controller feels entirely. This is the only controller I've done it to, and I've thought about doing it to other ones, but this kind of raised this to a number 3 or 2 spot, to be honest. I put it in number 2, or it was my number 1 for a while, until I realized, I went back to the PS4 controller, and I realized I am not an Xbox person. I am very much a PlayStation guy. At least for the two competitive consoles, I do not. This is the only Xbox I have. I thought I want to get a 360 because 360s are cool, but I've always had a PlayStation from the beginning. I told you I already have the PlayStation 2, 3, and 4. So, and I have PlayStation 1 games, so like I got 4 console generations. I just haven't had a reason to get a PS5. And still don't, because the PS4 plays all the games I want to, for the most part, although it would be cool to play the Wolverine game, but I don't need to play that. and I don't want to spend $500 on a PS5. So, PS4 it is. But anyway, this really changes the experience. It doesn't fix the loudness, but it makes it so much more comfortable, and it makes it a really nice controller to use and hold. And I like that it does angles outward, so your hands can they're more in a more natural, comfortable position. But anyway, but this is honestly, I would say, even without the lizard skin, the Switch Pro controller is the most comfortable out of all of them. And this is probably the GOAT of all of them, but my favorite, or probably, is the PlayStation controller, just because, well, it's what I started out on. The buttons, the D-pad, the joysticks, and it's got analog triggers, which are pretty good for what they are. Yes, this has pretty good buttons for those, but Sony just did much better, to be honest. And this is still really good. I would use, let's see, if I had to rank these, what would I rank them? Well, this is obviously going to be number 1. This guy, or this guy. Number 2. There you go. That's my ranking of my top 3 controllers. What is the worst? To be honest, the worst here is probably the NES. I mean, if the worst first party controller is the NES, but it was still really good for what it is, and it's not horrible. None of these controllers are bad, but it was good for what it is, to be honest. Now, there's some really bad third party controllers that are even worse than Nintendo, and I don't want to get into them. So, yeah. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.